It may seem a bit illogical to compare this microphone system to the DJI Mic 2. The Godox XT1 is less than a third of the cost. But if you're someone that needs a wireless microphone system for content creation and you can't afford the price tag of the DJI Mic, then this might be the video for you. And while there will be a difference in feature set, are you even going to be able to tell the difference when listening to the microphone side by side in real world use? And later in the video, I'm going to show you how to make any wireless microphone system sound better regardless of the price point. This video is sponsored by Godox. They had no say in the making of the video and said I could make whatever video I wanted. So I've done what I always do on this channel, and I'm trying to identify if their product can be a budget alternative to a much more expensive product. I recently found some very good pricing on the Godox XT1, and I'll put those links as well as the best prices I could find on the DJI Mic 2 in the description down below. And the first thing I want to point out is the advantages of the DJI Mic system over the Godox XT1. And the first one is 32-bit recording. This means that the transmitters themselves can record an audio track that if you lose your wireless signal or something goes wrong with the gain level set in your camera, you've always got a backup track in the transmitter that you can pull in and add in editing. In addition to that, because it is 32-bit float, it means that there are no levels to be set too high, too low, so you should have usable audio almost no matter what happens. The other thing that the DJI mic system has that the XT1 does not is a TRS port for connecting an external microphone. With the Godox mic, you just use them on your shirt and there is no ability to use an external mic. The DJI mic also has a charging case included. And I would say overall, the DJI mic system looks and feels more premium than the XT1, which I think we would expect given it's a system that costs 3 times the price. And even though the Godox is much smaller, it actually has a number of advantages over the DJI mic system. And the first one obviously is the price. We're talking about a third of the total price compared to the DJI mic. The other thing is the total size and weight. And this is not only while it's in use, but when it's packed down. You can see the DJI mic. This is in its charging case ready to go. And this might be what you threw out into your bag. And this is the Godox mic. Both of these are ready to go, bar having a TRS cable to plug them into your camera. So you can see there is a significant size difference. And even if you take them with their included cases, the Godox folds down significantly smaller. So in your camera bag, if you're taking it with all the accessories and you've got the included bags, you're still going to get a much smaller package with the Godox than you are with the DJI mic. And the size and weight of the transmitters themselves are also much smaller on the Godox system. And what this means is that when you put them on your shirt, they are less likely to tug down on your shirt or end up pointing out in some funny direction. So they are much less conspicuous because they are a much smaller microphone or the transmitter is much smaller. Also, interestingly, in real world use, the Godox has a much stronger magnet. So I put this on, it was a reasonably heavy wool sweater, and this stuck no problem with the Godox mic, but the DJI mic was always on the verge of falling off, and if I even bumped it a little bit, it would fall off. Now, this magnet does seem reasonably strong, but if you have any amount of thickness in whatever fabric you're trying to push it through, it seems to just not have the same sort of grip as the Godox mic. The other difference is the Godox has an 8-hour battery life in the transmitter, where the DJI mic only has a 6-hour transmitter. Another advantage that the Godox mic has over the DJI mic is that it includes an extra magnet in the kit, where the DJI mic only includes the 2, and if you lose one, then you've got to find a way to source another one. The Godox also has a very clever design, and it comes in this small little form factor, and you just plug your USB-C charging cable in here, and that will charge both the receiver and the 2 transmitters, and the transmitters are just stored in the bottom of the receiver. You flip this out, and you use those transmitters, clip this back in, and then this slides into the hot shoe of your camera. So this is just, I don't know, I think a really cool thing. And in addition to that, the transmitter actually charges these receivers. So if they run down, you just put them back on here and it gives them a bit of an extra charge. But probably the most surprising thing is between these two systems, There are more shared functions than there are different functions. In fact, both of them have mono track, safety track, or stereo track options for recording. They both have touchscreen interfaces. And honestly, I was shocked that the Godox had a touchscreen at the price point it was at. They both have low cut filters and noise canceling options. They both have a headphone jack for monitoring your audio. They both have clip or magnetic transmitter attachments. So the Godox has an extra clip that you can put on it, and the DJI mic has a clip, and then they add the actual magnet to the back of that. So they both have those options. They both include wind muffs for the transmitters. They both include carrying cases, and they both have non-replaceable batteries. And this is kind of a big deal, and this is pretty typical of these wireless microphone systems now. I don't think I know any of these that actually have user replaceable battery systems. And this is another reason you might want to consider a little bit cheaper option, because once the battery life is dead on these, like it can no longer be recharged a few years from now, the systems are dead and you have to throw them out. So you're throwing out a much smaller investment with the Godox system than you are with the DJI mic system. Now we're going to go to the sound test, and I've tested these in all their different settings side by side so you can actually hear what they sound like side by side. I've also included a section where I've applied an EQ to get the best sound out of the Godox mic so you can hear what that sounds like with a little bit of equalization as well. Now I will warn you that the sound coming out of both of these microphones is so similar and the differences are so subtle, you will really need to listen with good quality headphones to even be able to tell the difference. Right now you're listening to the Godox microphone. This is just the default setting straight out of camera. We don't have any filters enabled, and we don't have the dynamic noise reduction on. Now listen to the sound of my voice, listen to the highs, listen to the lows. How much detail are you getting? And how does this sound compare to the sounds of the DJI mic? Now you're listening to the DJI mic 2 in its default settings with no high pass filter on and no dynamic noise reduction. Once again, how does it sound? Listen to the sound of my voice. How are the highs? How are the lows? What sort of clarity are we getting? And what sort of background noises are we hearing in the environment around me? Now you're listening to the Godox microphone with the high pass filter enabled. This is just going to take some of the low bass frequencies out of my voice and the environment around me. It's very good for when you're in busy environments and you have low rumbling noises or when you have wind noise. This will help eliminate those noises and kind of clean up the sound a little bit. How does this sound compare to the sound of the DJI mic, also with that high pass filter enabled? Right now you're listening to the DJI mic 2 with the high pass filter enabled. This is going to take some of the bass frequencies out of my voice. It's also going to take low rumbling noises out of the environment around me. It can be helpful taking away wind noise as well. How does this sound compare to the sound of the Godox microphone with the high pass filter enabled on it? Right now you're listening to the Godox microphone with the dynamic noise reduction enabled. This is just going to sort of clean up the general background noise and hopefully allow you to focus more on my voice. Now I will say that generally speaking, this is not a function I use on any microphone, this microphone or the DJI microphone, because it can affect your sound in a negative way and something that you can't fix in editing. But if you record your sound and signal with everything and all the noises in the environment, you can in post-processing or editing work to take that noise out with a noise reduction software. Right now you're listening to the DJI mic 2 with the noise reduction enabled. Once again, this is not something that I would normally use. I would do this in editing, but if you are going to use your audio straight out of camera and you're in a noisy environment, it might be something you want to consider. Right now you're listening to the DJI mic 2 with the noise reduction enabled. Now you're listening to the Godox mic, but I'm applying a little bit of editing to this and I'm doing it in my editing software. And there's a couple things that I typically do. The first thing is I do a high pass filter. I usually cut it around 80 Hertz or thereabouts to just cut out those low frequencies, particularly when you have the microphone on your chest like this. It's going to be getting a lot of those very low frequencies and the sound can be a little bit boomy and a little bit muddled. So cutting out those frequencies really helps. The next thing I like to do is take a little bit out, just a little bit of dip in the EQ around the 350 to 370 Hertz, somewhere in there. And that just kind of cleans up the boxiness and gives a little bit more clarity. And then somewhere towards the high end of the spectrum, I like to boost the frequencies a little bit, particularly on microphones like this, where some of the clearest and most detailed part of my voice is kind of missing the microphone because it's down here under my chin. This is just going to open it up a little bit and give you a little bit more clarity. Now I'm just going to give you a chance to listen to it with and without the EQ applied. So what you're hearing right now is without the EQ applied. and now we've turned down the equalizer. And what you should hear is my voice should just sound a little bit brighter, a little bit cleaner, and a little bit more detailed. But ultimately, these are all personal preference things, so it's really up to you which you like better. Just to go over the results of those examples, I think the Godox has more highs. If you listen to it in its default no filter settings, you're getting more highs out of the Godox and you're getting more lows out of the DJI mics. You're getting a bit more of a lower radio voice. When you put the high pass filter on, I think the Godox had a more aggressive high pass filter, and it actually made the voice sound a little bit too high, and it took away too much of the lows, where I thought the DJI mic, its high pass was a little bit more subtle and I think sort of worked a little bit better. Looking at the noise reduction, I thought they were both actually quite usable, better than I expected, given that I hardly ever use them. I think the DJI mic did sound a little bit better, but I think they were both usable. And when it comes to the final sound, I think the Godox mic and any other microphone sounds best with a little bit of editing. And I think once I applied that EQ to it, it cleaned it right up. The other thing that I should say is when you are putting a lapel mic on yourself or someone else, it is best to get it a little bit further down the chest and not clip it right on the collar where it's right against their throat, because that is going to take away all the highs and it's going to get a very low muffled bass sound, which to fix up is going to take a whole bunch of work in editing or EQ, or it's just not going to sound right. So get that microphone down about halfway down the chest and it's going to sound better down there. So if you're doing professional work and you need 32-bit float recording or the ability to plug in an external microphone, then the DJI mic or something similar is really the only option. But if you're on an ultra tight budget or you want something smaller and lighter with most of the same functionality of the much more expensive DJI Mic 2, then I think the XT1 is an excellent budget alternative and I can highly recommend it. In some ways, I think it's shocking that you can even get a working microphone at this price point.